Hello, social workers, mental health professionals, and change agents. Welcome to another episode of season 7 of the Social Work Rants podcast. I'm your host, Bash Moreno. Saludos a todos. Greetings, everybody. Thank you for tuning in, tapping in wherever you are watching or listening to this podcast. I appreciate all the love and support. Hit 2,500 followers on the IG page. So thank you for supporting. Hit over 2,100 on Twitter, X, whatever Elon wants to call it this week. We are rocking and rolling. So again, thank you so much for support. The YouTube channel is growing too. So we're just hitting strides and having amazing guests, amazing social workers doing absolutely amazing things in the field and trying to think outside the box and have you at least think outside the box of things that you could do with your MSW degree and not necessarily having to take the culturally biased ASW exam. Anybody who knows me knows super against the ASWB full throttle. So anyway, we can make a buck with using our MSW degree by all means necessary. So and we're going to get into that into this at least a little bit into this episode about entrepreneurship. My guest Christina has an amazing entrepreneurial summit featuring amazing social workers later on this month in September. So we're going to get cracking. But if you choose to, you can follow the podcast on all social media platforms on Instagram at the Social Work Rants Podcast. That is all one word. Twitter, X, whatever, like I said, whatever Elon decides to call it on Social Work Rants, that's all one word. And of course, Facebook, aka Meta, type in the Social Work Rants Podcast, hit that like button. Even the Facebook page is growing too. So thank y'all for hitting that like button. And of course, the YouTube, type in the Social Work Rants Podcast, hit that red subscribe button. If for my audio listeners, rate the podcast, download however you listen to podcasts. Again, thank you so much for support. Gracias a todos por su apoyo. And of course, I recently made a post. I got brand new, nice looking Social Work Rant podcast T-shirts. That better quality than like the last time I tried to like debut them. So they're out. I'll put the link in the show notes. It's triumphthroughpain.myshopify.com. Let me know if you got any issues because Shopify is not letting me be great, and I was messing around with the Shopify page. So let me know what's going on. The trials and tribulations on entrepreneurship life. So, that being said, my guest at this time, Christina Broderick Royce. Did I get it correct?
You're good.
I broke it down too. That still like, I didn't want to butcher it.
You're good.
People butcher my name all the time. So, Christina, how you doing today?
I'm good. I'm having a good day so far.
Good. Glad to hear that. Especially it's hot. It's still summer. Want to hang on by a thread, and like
I know.
I just came from Atlanta. I know you was in Atlanta too, and like I left the heat and like back home, and it was like it's hot. I was like,
Oh my gosh. I go to Arizona tomorrow and it's gonna be 105 degrees.
if somebody got some snow, let me know. So if I gotta go to Australia somewhere, I'll go for a couple of days. It's too hot for me. That being said, you have your entrepreneurship summit going on, but before we get into that, let people know who you are and what you do in fascinating field of social work.
Sure. So yes, I'm Christina Broderick Royce. I'm a licensed social worker at the master's level here in New Jersey, and I am the founder and CEO of Intention Elevation. We are a consulting and education firm that works to elevate and amplify historically marginalized communities and those that support them. And we do that through our consulting work with programs, organizations, schools, universities, on how they can become more mental health forward. And then we also provide business coaching for social workers looking to package and leverage their skills to build a service-based business.
How did you come up with the name?
Intention Elevation?
Yes.
So it's actually the fourth iteration of my business name, actually. And that's why when I even advise social workers getting started, to definitely learn from me, because it was a very expensive lesson. I first started out as student success coaching. I thought I was going to be coaching students and families. That evolved into Ignite EDU, which was the second iteration, the most popular version of my name. But as my business started to expand and the reach started to grow, the name no longer felt fitting. And then I created Broderick and Company Consulting, but that didn't have enough like jazz to it, enough like oomph to it. And so we then created our DBA, doing business as Intention Elevation. And so we came up with Intention Elevation as a blend of descriptors, actually, in which we received from our audience over the past few years. One thing people always say is that they love how intentional we are with the work that we do, whether it's the services we provide, who we serve, why we serve. People always say that they see the intention behind it and they absolutely love it. And the elevation piece is really about how the communities that we intentionally serve, which are historically more marginalized communities and those that support them, how they can elevate and see beyond what's usually possible for based on the communities that they come from. So that is how we were able to blend those two together and came up with Intention Elevation.
I like that because I'm actually in the process of doing a DBA myself with my business and
Yeah.
doing more financial consulting work, mixing, doing like treatment, like kind of like initial treatment plans, like psychosocial assessment into like
Yeah.
an eventual treatment plan, stuff, not reinventing the wheel, but just coming with the name, and then the name is not fitting what I
Yeah.
want to do now. So it's like, okay, now we figure out how to do business ads and
Mm-hmm.
learning all those baby steps from
Yeah.
scratch. And
Yeah. And that's what I say when I'm advising folks when they're just getting started and filing your paperwork, just do something like your name or something generic, right? Because then the DBA makes it easier to switch versus what my mistake was that Ignite EDU legally everywhere and then trying to switch it in EINs. And it took almost 2 years for us to do the switch.
mm,
And hundreds of dollars to be able to do that as well, for sure.
yeah, that's all the stuff that they'll talk about in terms of how expensive things in and all right, after technical difficulty, we 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 back. Zoom want to be hating. So as you were saying, we talked about your business and doing the DBA, and I'm in the process of doing that now and having trademarking and kind of like I even spoke to my trademarking lawyers like, are you good in terms of the trademark? So like, all right, I don't need to be spending extra money that I don't have, or like try to like rebrand this business. So
Yep.
yeah, I know you mentioned I know you were a school social worker briefly. So we want to talk about that experience, especially for now. Most of us has probably just started first week of school, or kids already been in the school for like a month already. Like, what was
Yeah.
your experience like?
And it's funny, this is given it just so many flashbacks. So when I started as a school social worker, so I've done most of my professional career in the education space. And so initially I was like supposed to go to medical school. I switched that while I was working in California. And knew I always wanted to be in education. So I've worked across at this point now the entire education spectrum. I've done elementary school, middle school, high school, higher ed. Is while I was working in higher ed that I actually started my business, working with first generation low income students at a top university here in New Jersey. And then from there, I was frustrated with that role. Working in higher ed is very political. It is
Mm,
very political, especially when it's, a top research university, a top, Big Ten university, all these things. It's very political. And the opportunity came from a friend to be a school social worker. And it's interesting because at the time I actually had never done middle school. I'd done elementary school, high school, and higher ed, and I've never done middle. And I was like, that could be an interesting challenge. And was interested in just like taking a different approach to the work that I've done. And so I was warned. My friend did warn me. She was like, "You're going to work in a charter school. I know how you are. You're not going to like it." And I was like, "It's like a school. I'll be fine, right?" And it's true. I did not like it. And of course, it's not forever. It's not to generalize and say all schools, all charters, right? Things like that. Just the way that the school that I was in, the way that it was run, the beliefs that people had, the way that they operated. There's constant tension as related to like values misalignment, right? What I knew was what we could be doing and trying and implementing was just like not even like respected, if you would say. And so it was just, seeing students struggle, knowing that like there's other options and just not being able to do anything about it, which just went against my core values. And I had already started my business, but wasn't fully into it. And so the reason why I'm saying that right now is getting pretty nostalgic was because in 2019, being the full Virgo that I am, I do too many things at one time. And so I joined 2 business programs in September of 2019. And one of the programs says that you should write your quit day letter in advance. Whatever that means, it could be in 3 months, it can be in 2 years. You just need to pick a date and write it. And so I was September 2019, the school year just started, and I was like, this is going to be my last school year. Like, I'm done with this. It's just not for me. It's like, there's more that I can do. And the programs I enrolled in were meant to help me take my business more seriously. And so that was for me the kind of pivotal turning point as it related to taking my skill set that I've already had and really being able to go full force with how I'm able to leverage it into my own business. But it was hard, right? You see a lot of real stuff. And I was a school social worker at the height of the pandemic, right? 2019 into 2020. And so it was that March, right? You're just like, okay, school's getting out. As a school social worker, everyone's looking at you because everyone's concerned about the students' emotional health, mental health. What are we going to do? And I'm trying to figure it out as well, because like I've never been in this situation. And then working in the community that I was working in Newark, New Jersey, and that there was just a lot of crime, a lot of really hard, challenging things the students were going through. And I think for me personally, that was what was really hard, is that I was sitting at home knowing the homes that they were in, and I'm like, they have no option but to stay there, right? Like school was the safe haven, and now that's no longer there for them. And so it was a really difficult position for me. And again, it's not to generalize school social work. I think it looks different in all different places.
Yeah.
The role and then the school that I was in and the admin that we had, it just, all of it aligned and just was not my jam.
I'm in the same boat. Even though I started my certification in school social work, I am retired from doing school social work.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. How long did you do it for?
A year and a half.
Yep. There's something about it, right? I'm just like, people are like, oh, you got summers off and whatever. But it's like, it just, what I got to go through 10 months of like pulling my hair out for 2 months of
exactly
breathing. And that's like, maybe I actually, I can't remember if it was my first year or my second year, but one of them landed me in urgent care because I was just so overwhelmed. And so I was coming into school early and staying late because I could not get anything done during the school day, because everyone's calling you, they're texting you, can you come here? We need a crisis. You need to go to the hospital, take this kid here. And so I was like overworking myself. And then I remember being there in my office, and I'm getting this tingling sensation up the left side of my arm. It's going into my neck, into my jaw. And the school nurse is like, you need to get out of here right now. Like, you need to go to urgent care right now. And it was stress. They ran all the tests and it was all stress. And it makes me think of a phrase I've been saying recently, is that social workers tend to build businesses out of burnout. Like we get burnt out, and then we were like, oh, I want to create my own thing. It's hard, right? Building a business is hard. It requires a lot of effort. And to do that from a place of burnout because the institutions are not adequately sustaining or equipping us with skills or environments that we can thrive. It just that's the only part I think initially it makes it really hard for folks, is because they already are so burnt out. And then having to build a business requires also so much more additional effort.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm living that day in, day out, and sometimes I ain't got the energy today. Even just podcasting, I gotta upload this episode, man. Like half asleep.
Yeah,
Try to
right?
try to upload podcast episodes. So
Yeah.
it's like, so I totally relate to that. So let's get into this entrepreneurship summit, September 23rd, 24th, the
Yes.
weekend before my birthday. So I'm excited.
Oh, and it's
So
a week after my birthday. When's your
yes,
birthday?
the 26th.
Oh, how did I not know that we were both September babies? Oh, you, the best people are born
It's
in September.
I blame the IG algorithm for that.
I love it. I love it. Oh,
So 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 let people know what's it about, who's going to be in it, and just
all the good
yes,
stuff. All
yeah.
the good stuff. So the Social Work Summit was created because of the gap that exists right now in the way that we're able to support our social workers. So we run a longer social work entrepreneurship incubator, which is about a 6-month program. And so we're finishing up cohort 3, but we've been getting so many requests for support that we're like, well, we need to have something, right? Something to give people, but it's also like a way to kind of get a feel for what the incubator is like, if folks are going to be potentially joining us for the next cohort. And so what the summit is meant to do is to allow social workers to get clarity, to get strategy, and to get support on a lot of the foundational pieces that we need to run a business. It's not all of it, right? It's only 2
Mm,
days for a few hours, but it's a lot of really great stuff. So we are bringing in our experts. We have experts on finances, right? Because we have to be able to run not just a business, but a profitable business. And so what does that mean? What does that look like? How do we pay ourselves? The number one question is like, how much do I charge, right? But a lot of that is
mm,
to the understanding of finances, your expenses, what you want to make, your profit, your taxes, right? So we have someone coming in to talk about finances. And then once we know that what we can offer, we have to be able to market it and sell, right?
mm,
And so we have our marketing experts and our sales expert coming in, not just to lead their sessions, but then also for our VIP members, they get a Q&A with them. So the ability to ask like really targeted questions to our experts on marketing and sales. But one of the primary experts I had to bring in was my girl Topsy. She is a licensed social worker in California. And for years, her business actually has been supporting entrepreneurs with mindset work.
mm,
And time again, that is probably the biggest hurdle for folks. No matter if we give them the exact roadmap, I will give people exactly what to write into an email to send to people for sales, and they will not copy, paste, and hit send, right? Because it is a mindset piece.
mm,
They're fearful, they're scared. What are they going to think of me? What if they say no? Can I really? Like, there's all of these looming questions. And so Topsy comes in and she really helps us like dig deeper as social workers, social work entrepreneurs, on tackling the mindset. She calls, I'm going to butcher it, but something about like getting out of the spiral, right? That we can get into.
mm,
And then we have our beautiful social work entrepreneurial panel. So, and Ted, in the ability to not just learn from experts, but then to hear from our other social work entrepreneurs that are coming in and talking the real about being a social work entrepreneur, right? So that is not just my voice and my experience and my story, that there's other amazing social workers who also talk about their journey, their experience, as it is relates to being a social work entrepreneur. And then we have a mixer, which I think is kind of really fun too, because again, this is why I named my company this way. I was really intentional about this. When I first, maybe about a year and a half ago, I felt very lonely in the space. I didn't really have many other entrepreneur friends, especially social work entrepreneur friends. I wanted to meet people. And
mm,
so like I kind of got into like a little bit of stalker mode, and I was like messaging people on LinkedIn and asking if they want to go out for coffee. Right. And I've been able to kind of curate this circle of other social work entrepreneurs, but not everybody has that. And
mm,
so I wanted to be able to have this mixer for people to meet each other, talk to each other, maybe start setting up some accountability groups, right? So that we can really be able to take some action after the summit and be accountable to somebody for that. So yeah, that's what we're going to cover. It's a really good time. It's 2 days, jam-packed, value-packed. And I've been, interestingly enough, people have been snatching up our VIP tickets. Because yes, we get that Q&A session, and yes, you get access to the recording, but then there's a post strategy session. So after you're able to marinate on all the information, you go back and watch it a couple times, we all get back together and say, now here's a roadmap, a blueprint that you can take from this point forward, right? So the summit will get you like a good couple of bases. Then that post strategy session is really going to help you like amplify it some more.
Gotcha. How can people sign up for that?
So you can go to intentionelevation.com/summit, and it'll bring you up our page talking more about the summit, so you can read about it. You can see all of our lovely experts. You'll have their Instagram to check them out and stalk them a little bit if you'd like. You'll get to see a overview of what the schedule is as well. But then, of course, will be the link for you to purchase your ticket.
Yeah, I signed up for mine for VIP. I'm looking forward to it, and definitely excited. And between myself, hired a business coach. I'm like little full throttle into. Was working on my website yesterday, and still try to do things and talking to people and going to conferences and stuff like that, and talking to people about what I'm doing now, and people seem interested. So it's kind of, you got to put yourself out there, kind of like do the work.
You have to. And it's hard of the people who, maybe are more introverted and more close. It's the reality of being an entrepreneur, especially when you're starting out. Like, you got to hit the pavement. And I think some people, and there's no shade in terms of people that take this avenue, but we tend to focus so much on social media and posting and like all of that kind of stuff. But as I like to say, I like to play games that I can win, right? I come from a sports background, and I like to know the rules, and I want to make sure I can like play this game before I dive in, right? Like, I'm pretty competitive. And with social media, sometimes it feels you're playing a game you don't really understand, right? The algorithm is always changing.
Yes.
How do you know that the right person's on Instagram at the right time to see your post? And if it's on your story, they see it in 24 hours, right? Like, there's just so many things that you're playing against that you can't really guarantee. Versus, like, I know that if I can show up, for example, and present, right? I can show up and I can shake some hands and I can network. Like, I know that that's a strong play that I can have to get people in the door, to get them on my email list, to get them on a coffee chat or a sales call, when I can directly control that versus just like throwing things up. So it is definitely harder for folks who may struggle with some of those interactions. But I think a lot of us social workers are good people. Like, we're good people, right? Like, we know how to talk to people. We know how to build rapport with people. It's the same skill, right? It's actually a bigger strength than people who solely rely on like social media. If you can really talk to people, understand their needs, understand their wants and their desires and where they want to be, and then you can communicate how you can help them, that's social work 101.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I know if I struggle with this, like making that connection, like snap, I already like do this, and it's just, and a lot of us already do it, and it's just being people person. We gotta talk to people in order to do the work that we do. So it's just people who are not normally social workers or whatever, or normally our clientele that we usually are serving with. We're just having conversations with a brand new demographic, because so yeah. I was in Atlanta for a financial conference, and just talking to people, meeting people, and kind of talking about business a little bit, and networking a little bit, and just myself bringing my family along, and just showing them like, okay, you got to talk to people. You're about to start new schools, and like, you're not going to know anybody. I don't know anybody here. I know like one person that I ran into, and it's like, but still, like, I talk to people and make connections and see what happens. Kind of.
And I'm this, people think like I'm a super extroverted person. I'm not.
Neither am I. I'm definitely
Like,
not.
yeah, like I can go to like a big thing like InvestFest that you went to, like that kind of thing. Like, I would probably stand in the corner and be like, okay. But sometimes I like to, utilize other strategies. I went to this huge conference. I had like 1,200 people there. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to sit in a common area, right? I may not be the one that's going to start a conversation, but maybe somebody will sit next to me, and they did. And that happened like 5 times. I was like, I'm just going to sit in a common area, right? So, hey, can I sit here? Or like, hey, like, do you mind? Or hey, like, I like your shoes. And we would strike up conversations, right? And so sometimes it's also being able to at least just be somewhat intentional about your approaches, but we can't go into the spaces and leave with absolutely nothing, right? There has to be some kind of ROI, right? Return on investment in some kind of way if we want to be able to use it to leverage what we can in our business.
No, yeah, absolutely. I'm definitely not an extrovert in any way. Then I still got that New York in me, be like, what the heck are you talking to me? With that side eye. So it's just getting out of my comfort zone and been doing more, speaking engagements within the last year and a half. Occasionally, being in Dallas earlier this year and doing an online event last year. So kind of putting yourself out there and doing this podcast and stuff in my book, the stuff that I'm doing. So it's we have to do that.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah, so I definitely gonna put the link in the show notes. Definitely get your tickets. September 23rd, 24th is a Saturday and Sunday. Definitely it's a few hours out your day. Definitely there's a lot of jam-packed sessions. And I'm really looking forward to that. What else you got going on? You're gonna be in Arizona. You was just in Atlanta.
Yeah, home for a
So
day.
you running for president because you're traveling all over.
I know. There's a lot more coming up. I'm home for today, and then I'm back out tomorrow. We're doing some work with a college in Arizona, a staff training. And then I'm home for a couple weeks with the summit and all that kind of stuff, as well as still serving our consulting clients. And then I'm out to Montreal to facilitate a session at a conference there. And then I leave Montreal and go straight to Virginia to work with some staff and some students at Virginia. So the next few weeks are pretty busy, I will say. My team, I'm like, we got to block off the holiday season. Like, we got to have the ability to take weeks off, because we have just been go, go, go. But I think what's really grounding is like, I find this work also pretty invigorating. I love it. I love what I do. It's definitely can be a little hectic, but it's really, really awesome to be able to support people in this way.
No, yeah, I seen your post about the cohorts and especially the last cohort you just had, and they killing it, like Tabitha and a couple other people who've been on the podcast. They really killing it right now. So
yeah, and even now I'm in the third cohort, and they're dropping their wins, and they're booking they're getting all these things booked, and they're getting paid to fly out to California. Like, they're just doing so many amazing things. And it's just so awesome. And I'm just like, listen, I just, again, sit in my strategy seat. I want to empower people, activate people, and let them do the damn thing.
yeah. So no, I know you got to run. So where people could find you, they want to reach out to you.
Yes. So you can find me on Instagram, Chrissy.Broderick, CHRISSIE.Broderick. It'll pop up pretty quickly there, as well as our business page, Intention Elevation. You can find me on LinkedIn, Christina Broderick Royce, LSW on LinkedIn. Those are the two primary spaces that I am at.
Cool, awesome. Safe travels. Thank you so much for coming on. Keep up the great work. See you on the 23rd.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.